Have you ever sat beside someone who once felt like home, yet suddenly they feel miles away? The body is there, but the connection that used to spark effortlessly has faded into a quiet emptiness. Her laughter doesn't land the same. Her voice sounds distant. Her energy feels muted. You search for reasons. Maybe she's tired, stressed, distracted, but deep down, something else whispers beneath the surface. Something heavier, something harder to admit. She's already checked out. Not with yelling, not with accusations, not even with a goodbye. She leaves silently, emotionally, long before she physically walks away. And the signs, though subtle, are always there. Hidden in the way her eyes shift, in the pauses between messages, in the way she occupies space without inviting you into it. Tonight, we uncover the 5 silent moves she uses when she's emotionally gone, moves so soft, so quiet, that most men don't realize what's happening until the relationship is already drifting out of reach. Be honest with yourself. Have you felt her presence, but not her heart? Her body beside you, but her mind somewhere far away? These moves aren't random. They are self-protective patterns, sometimes conscious, often instinctive. They are how she withdraws without confrontation, how she disconnects without creating a scene, how she saves herself from an emotional investment she no longer feels safe making. Let's begin. Move 1. The silent drift. This is the earliest sign and the easiest to dismiss. It starts with small things. She stops initiating. The texts you once woke up to now arrive late or not at all. Replies shrink into short, neutral statements. There's no warmth, no curiosity, no spark behind her words. She's present, but not engaged. You tell yourself she's busy or overwhelmed. You rationalize the distance because admitting the truth hurts too much. Yet the shift is real. She retreats mentally even when she sits beside you physically. She stops sharing the tiny details of her day, the stories that once made you feel included in her world. The laughter that used to flow freely now feels forced or absent altogether. If you've noticed yourself trying harder, asking more questions, trying to spark a reaction, only to be met with polite indifference, that is the silent drift in motion. And here's the painful part. The more you chase, the farther she retreats. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she's no longer anchored emotionally. This drift is the soft warning before the true disconnection settles in. And the longer it goes unaddressed, the harder it becomes to pull her back. Move 2. The avoiding eye contact once, her eyes held warmth. They mirrored her interest, her joy, her affection. They lit up when she looked at you. Now, they slide away. Quick glances, fleeting looks, eyes that see you but don't connect with you. She looks at her phone, at the floor, at the wall, anywhere but into your eyes when a moment becomes emotional, vulnerable, or intimate. This isn't rudeness. It isn't anger. It's distance. A boundary she builds quietly. When a woman avoids eye contact with a man she once cared for, she's signaling something without words. I'm no longer emotionally here. Her gaze becomes a shield, a way to protect herself from the intimacy she's already disconnected from. You may not confront it, but you feel it. That flicker of warmth in her eyes is gone, replaced by neutrality. Eye contact is one of the last things to fade in a relationship. Once it does, the emotional erosion accelerates. Move 3. The emotional plateau. This is when everything becomes flat. Conversations once filled with laughter, teasing, curiosity, and depth now feel empty, predictable, mechanical. She doesn't share her highs or her lows. She doesn't express excitement, frustration, or interest. She simply exists beside you, pleasant but uninvolved. She isn't angry. She isn't fighting. She's detached. If you find yourself talking into a void, sharing news, ideas, or feelings only to receive polite nods or minimal responses in return. You're standing in the emotional plateau. Many men make the mistake of chasing emotion at this stage, trying to provoke a reaction, trying to get her to feel something, anything. But that only exhausts you because her emotional energy is no longer invested. And the danger? The plateau can become the new normal. You get used to the lack of connection until you barely remember what closeness felt like. Move 4. The invisible boundaries. These boundaries aren't spoken. They aren't argued. They simply appear, slowly tightening around the relationship. She doesn't reject you harshly, she just doesn't lean in the way she used to. She hesitates before hugging you. She turns slightly when you reach for her hand. Her smiles feel reserved, distant. When she says, "I just need some space," it's not a phrase, it's a transition. A quiet creation of emotional walls. Shared time becomes shorter. Deep talks become rare. Moments of closeness must be scheduled when once they happen naturally. You realize you no longer feel fully included in her world. You're next to her, yet strangely outside her life. She doesn't slam the door shut. She slides it silently, leaving you on the other side without ever raising her voice. Move 5. The internal exit. This is the final and most decisive move. Before a woman leaves physically, she leaves mentally. She begins planning her future without you, not out of cruelty, but out of emotional exhaustion. She stops imagining shared goals. She no longer asks about plans, commitments, or dreams. She becomes self focused, redirecting her time and energy inward. You'll notice she invests more in herself, her work, her friendships, her hobbies, while investing less in us. Her tone becomes practical, almost transactional. She keeps conversations surface level. She avoids anything that requires vulnerability or emotional investment. Inside, she's already gone. By the time this move appears, she's not debating the relationship anymore. She's simply waiting for the moment when leaving feels natural or unavoidable. These 5 silent moves don't explode into a breakup. They fade in like shadows, gradually, quietly, unmistakably. Not to punish you, not to manipulate you, but because her heart slipped away long before her words ever could. Recognizing these signs isn't about blame. It's about clarity, self respect, and understanding the emotional language she speaks even when she says nothing at all. This is the reflective psyche, and awareness is your power. The danger lies in underestimating these boundaries. Because they're subtle, they slip past your awareness. You tell yourself it's temporary, a mood, a passing wave. But every small retreat adds another layer of distance, distance that slowly becomes too wide to cross if you're not seeing it clearly. And here's the truth most people overlook: invisible boundaries rarely dissolve on their own. Once they're formed, they solidify. They signal an emotional withdrawal long before any breakup conversation ever happens. So ask yourself, have you felt these quiet shifts weaving themselves into your daily exchanges? Those tiny hesitations, those pauses in closeness, those moments where she seems near but not accessible? Notice them because they're telling a story much louder than her words. That brings us to the 5th and final silent move, the distant smile. She still smiles, but the warmth is gone. The spark that once lit up her face now stops short, never reaching her eyes. It's polite, soft, controlled. A gesture meant to keep the peace, not deepen connection. What once made you feel chosen now feels rehearsed. Pay attention to how she responds to affection. Your gestures are acknowledged, but not embraced. Your tenderness is received, but not returned. Her smile becomes a shield, a way of appearing present while her heart stands far back, observing rather than participating. Ask yourself honestly, when did her smile last make you feel seen? Truly seen? If you struggle to remember, This silent move has already settled in. The distant smile is her way of preserving space without the discomfort of confrontation. It's gentle but final. It's the mask she wears while her emotional presence slips further away. This final move completes the pattern, the drift, the avoidance, the plateau, the walls, and now the distant smile. Together, they form an unmistakable sequence of quiet disengagement, nearly invisible until you choose to see. Be honest with yourself. If you've noticed these signs, ignoring them doesn't stop the disconnection. It only deepens it. The distant smile is the last signal before the emotional exit. A soft, subtle whisper of truth many men don't hear until they're standing in the aftermath, wondering how it all changed. And here's the reflection you need to hold on to. Presence is not always physical. Absence is not always loud. The moment you grasp this, everything shifts. You gain the clarity to respond instead of react, to observe rather than chase, to understand instead of deny. Now that we've uncovered all 5 silent moves, it's time to reflect on the weight they carry together. The drift that begins quietly, the avoiding eye contact that erodes intimacy, the emotional plateau that flattens connection, the invisible boundaries that limit closeness, and finally, the distant smile that seals the emotional gap. Each one matters. But together, they form a pattern of withdrawal that cannot be ignored. Have you noticed the internal conflict that rises when these signs appear? That mixture of confusion, concern, longing, and silent pain? You try harder, reach further, hoping to revive something that no longer meets you halfway. Yet every attempt is met with neutrality. This is the psychological tension many men find themselves trapped in, trying to revive a connection that's quietly fading. Ignoring this tension only leads to resentment, exhaustion, and heartbreak. So be honest. Have these patterns shown up in your own life? Maybe they're happening right now and you've been brushing them aside. Awareness is your first step toward clarity. Recognizing the signs allows you to stop pouring emotional energy into a connection that isn't reciprocating. It lets you reclaim your balance, your boundaries, your sense of self. Here's another truth many resist. No amount of convincing, persuading, or chasing can pull someone back who's already emotionally gone. These silent moves aren't punishments, they're signals, messages, indicators that her emotional landscape has changed. And when you understand that, you reclaim your power. Transformation begins with awareness. Recognize the drift. Notice the hesitation in her gaze. Feel the flattening of the emotional terrain. Acknowledge the boundaries you keep bumping into. And understand the meaning behind the distant smile. Accept reality without resentment. See what's truly there, not what you wish it was. What can you control? Your emotional presence, your self respect, your boundaries, your energy, not her choices, not her withdrawal, not her silence. When you shift inward, you regain equilibrium. You stop chasing and start observing. You stop reacting and start understanding. Presence is not proximity. Connection is not habit. Love is not routine. Emotional absence is quiet but persistent. And once you see the patterns as they are, you can respond from a place of calm and strength. Feel the weight of these moves, their slow, consistent erosion of trust, attention, intimacy. Awareness is your ally. When you recognize the patterns, you can make conscious choices to address them honestly or step back to protect your heart. These silent moves are not puzzles to solve. They are truths to acknowledge. When you understand them, you rise into emotional clarity instead of confusion. If you've come this far, you're already ahead of most. You see what others often miss. You feel what others overlook. Take this understanding and use it to navigate your relationships with wisdom, presence, and steady confidence. Pause. Reflect. Reclaim your power. Your clarity matters. Your mind deserves truth, not illusion.